this computer. Good morning, everyone. Charles Park, broker manager at REMAX West. Today is March 18th, 2025. For those of you who are watching or recording, it is 9:32 in the morning. We're going to get started. I wanted to introduce Ron Gibson, who was one of our keynote speakers for today's Zoom exercise. Ron, introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Ron Gibson here from Gibson Mortgages. Thanks, Charles, for putting this together. I think it's a very, very, very good topic to discuss in today's market. So
I think the timing of this is impeccable because of the stuff that has gone on, even just recently. We've seen a little spike in some of the things that, I think what I want to do, guys, just sort of as a little bit of a disclaimer here, I want to be positive. I didn't want to be negative today. I know that the topic may seem negative, but I think there are positive things to take away from this topic, it being power of sale. I know that a lot of people get intimidated with this topic. I think it affected some of the registration because I know some people just can't be surrounded by negativity and whatnot in their lives right now. But I think it's important that we, as service practitioners in the real estate industry, address even controversial topics, and we tackle them head on. Would you agree, Ron?
Yes, 100%.
Awesome.
Sometimes we even got to talk ourselves out of business just to be, just to give reality checks to people, so.
That's right. That's right. So let's see if I can get this slide presentation going. You guys can see that, right? Amazing. So, disclaimer. I'm going to put this up on the screen. I'm not going to read it, but this is an information session only. Nothing that we discuss here is considered legal advice, even though we're going to be tackling some of the legal topics of power of sale. I do also want to stress that at the time, I actually had to rewrite this presentation from years ago. I was trying to remember back as to how long ago I actually taught this course, and power sales actually weren't that prevalent. You guys remember that nobody was going under power of sale? I think I did a power of sale search once, and I think I found one. It was that rare. And I think for my mortgage practitioners that are in the room with me and online like Ron, I think it's important that we recognize that it wasn't a thing. People didn't want to talk about it because it wasn't really happening. But I think it's happening now. What do you think, Ron?
100%. We decided, because we were getting so many calls from clients and family and friends of clients, we actually did some ads targeting power of sale, and we started getting 5, 6, 7 calls a day from people that were just desperate, reaching out. So yeah,
I find it interesting that they're reaching out to you. Are these like past clients and things like that, or just people that are walking out of the woodwork?
A little bit of both.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm passing my disclaimer. For those of you who are looking at this for the very first time, REMAX has rebranded on top of Gibson Mortgages logo there. I tried to find a black logo. I'm gonna have to find one of your black logos, Ron.
Yeah, please.
So we have rebranded. That's the new logo. For those of you, we look like we're owned by PepsiCo. All right. That's all being recorded. Here's our agenda, guys. So we're going to go into the legal definitions of what power sale actually is, the requirements and time limits, mortgage considerations, which Ron is going to take over the entire presentation and give us his 2 cents on the mortgage side of things, because I don't really see the same side of things as our mortgage friends do. The real estate brokerage considerations, which involves due diligence. I think the agents that are present with me in the room today, and those of you who are joining us online, may be a little bit surprised as to what access we actually have access to when doing our due diligence, when we see or get approached with a power of sale. Advertising considerations. Actually, at my previous brokerage, I had to pull out somebody and pull them aside and say, look, I received as your broker the power of sale documentation and actually read through it, and my agent did not, and totally missed the fact that he could not advertise it as a power of sale in the documentation, yet here it was all over social media. It was kind of crazy. Forms and clauses, just, going to quickly, gloss over that. And there's going to be a Q&A session at the very end, guys. So, help me out here. If I'm going too fast, too slow for you guys, please let me know. I don't have a wingman checking the chat room. There are over 160 power of sales in Treb right now. So Skylar, I'm going to believe you. I'm actually going to be showing you how I do my power of sale search, but I'm not doing that until the very end of the seminar. So hang out until the very end, because I'm going to be jumping into our MLS system and showing you guys how I search power of sales on the system. So as a buyer agent, not only is it an opportunity for you guys as real estate agents to get the listings and help people out that are in distress, I think it's also important that we as buyer agents understand that there is a segment out there, even though there's no unique identifier for power of sales in our MLS system, there are obviously telltales that I'm going to be showing you guys that you can set yourself up on. All right, let's keep going. Oops. I'm using the buttons on my screen. Legal definitions. So that is the Province of Ontario Coat of Arms. Everything that I show you here, right, is directly from the provincial statute. Okay, so in Ontario, power of sale is a legal process under the Mortgage Act that allows a lender to sell a property when a borrower defaults on their mortgage. Now, Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember reading my own mortgage documents, and I think if you miss 2 payments, they start notifying you. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's a little bit different for every lender, but yeah, that's when that first kind of default letter will go out, the scary default letter. So,
Right. And
yeah.
unlike foreclosure, the lender does not take ownership, but instead sells the property to recover the outstanding debt. The lender must provide proper notice, we're going to get into that, and follow legal procedures, including giving the borrower time to remedy the default. And that's a really key point to keep in the back of your head. Any surplus from the sale after debt repayment and costs, I should have underlined costs, is returned to the borrower. Am I correct?
Yes.
Amazing. And if you look at that small text section, it's very long. That is the section in which we're going to be referring to under the Mortgage Act in order to justify how lenders can sell your clients' properties out from underneath them. All right. These are the sections that I wanted to point out. I took away the references. Luckily, the province of Ontario, when they publish the act online, they actually can give it to you in words. I just had to cut and paste this off the internet and pop it into this slide. But you can see here, notice of exercising power of sale. This is basically where we're going to exist in the real estate market. We're going to have to look at the notices, right? When notice may be given, the power exercised, manner of giving notice, general rules, notice by mail effective, statutory declarations, impeachment of title, abridgment of time, notice of rules paramount, exercise of power of sale without notice, which can occur, and transitional provision. And part 3 does not apply to blind mortgages. I didn't really understand that side of things. What is a blind mortgage, Ron? Sorry, bond mortgage.
Which one is that?
The last one. So bond mortgages are different from traditional mortgages? Is that like a collateral mortgage of some sort, or?
I'm honestly not sure.
Oh, okay. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is the first time I've actually seen that. Maybe we'll grab a lawyer later on and ask him what
We'll
the
take that one away.
Yeah. Okay, let's go into the requirements. When a borrower defaults on their mortgage payments, the lender initiates power of sale proceedings to recover the debt through the sale of the property. The process begins with the lender sending a default notice, giving the borrower a specified period to rectify the default, usually 15 days for commercial properties and 35 days for residential properties. So there's your 1 month, but you would have had to have been 1 month in arrears before they would have sent you that notice, right? I think the additional 35 days is somewhat flexible with different lenders, like as Ron mentioned. Following the issuance of the notice of sale, the borrower enters a redemption period, usually lasting 35 days, during which they can pay off the outstanding debt and associated costs to stop the proceedings. Now, Ron, I would love you to, I met you yesterday and we talked about this point in time.
Yeah.
Can you share with me what you discussed with me?
Sure. So, in one of the slides that I did, I'm going to talk about that later on. Well, I might as well talk about it now.
Yeah, well, let's hit your slide and then we'll get into it into the nitty gritty, I would guess, right?
Yeah. So give me 1 second here.
If the borrower does not redeem the mortgage, right, the lender proceeds with the sale of the property, ensuring that the sale is conducted in a commercially responsible manner, which makes us a little bit different than the United States. I don't think they have that sentence in their provisions. Often, through a real estate agent or auction. Now, I have never seen it done through auction. I'm not sure if anybody else has, but we know that this is an opportunity for a person in distress approaches one of us and says, look, I just been given this notice. I need to sell ASAP. You are in control at this point in time of your destiny. And I think that is the most important thing to consider is if you lose control, that bad things can happen, right? The sale proceeds are first used to cover the lender's costs and the outstanding mortgage debt, with any remaining funds distributed to the other lien holders and on any surplus returned to the borrower. Now, there's a hierarchy in that. I believe, I'm not sure if Ron, that's in your slide, but we can get into that a little bit later on as well, right?
Yeah.
And here is Ron. I took your LinkedIn photo, Ron. How do you like it?
I love it.
So for those of you who are watching us online, please write down Ron's information. There's his email. I put your FISRA number there just to be compliant.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. And I'm going to let you take it away.
Okay, so let me pull up
Yeah.
my screen here. 1 second. Okay. 1 second.
Got 30 people online today.
Okay, so I just want to touch on a few of the things that, you know, aside from the whole timelines and the legal timelines and all that, you know, from the mortgage side, you know, in my opinion, from all of the power of sales that I've seen, or I want to kind of start maybe not talking about it as a power sale. Let's talk about when they go into default. Okay. So from that first letter that they receive that says they're in default. Okay. Because that's really when the process starts. Okay. So I'm just going to give you an example right here. Okay. This realtor calls me. She saw her aunt and uncle's house on MLS, called them to find out why they're selling and why they never called her. Okay. They came clean, admit that the house was in a power of sale. As a matter of fact, they were 14 months past due in payments. So this is why I wanted to talk about these timelines, because they were still 14. They were 14 months in, and they were still in the house. Okay, so this process can go very fast or very slow depending on the lender. Okay, this all happened on a Sunday in December. I spoke to the clients on Sunday night, and they really wanted help. They didn't know where to turn. So on Monday morning, they then received an eviction notice from the sheriff with an eviction of Friday morning. So they had 5 days to get out of the house. Okay. So they owed $520,000 to Home Trust. This included the principal, interest, legal fees. According to the letters from Home Trust and the lawyers, they were demanding full payment. So right from the get-go, when you're like, you know, 2 months past due, and you get that default letter from the lender, it will almost always have request the full amount of the mortgage to be paid back, including interest that's accrued and fees. Most people, they think that they're kind of past the point of no return at that point, and that's where kind of the myths start happening. Okay, so if for this specific situation, we did a quick appraisal. The property appraised for 680,000. We reached out to the lawyers for Home Trust that morning, and we asked for an arrears statement. Okay, that is the key. You must ask for an arrears statement. This is why, in my opinion, one of the most important people to speak to during this process is a mortgage professional, because we are the ones that will evaluate, you know, whether or not, you know, there's hope for this client. Okay, and believe it or not, quite often there is. Okay, these are not all lost hopes. So within 2 hours, they gave us an arrears statement, and it turned out that they owed $64,000. Okay, they were in the house for 14 months without making any payments, and they were about to get evicted. So this had already gone through the courts. They had got judgments, and the bank was taking the house on Friday, and they were going to be selling it. So we actually arranged a cash private mortgage for them in 4 days, and we stopped all legal action and put the existing mortgage in good standing. Okay. Um, I want to touch on something here. Banks are not in the business of taking houses. and they don't want to be. It's, it's bad for investors' balance sheets, and it has, reputational risks. So any chance, regardless of what you see or hear in these letters, any chance for them to get paid up to date, they will, like 98% of the time, they will accept that. Okay. Which is basically great for, everyone involved. The clients get to sell the house on their own terms, and they get to stay in the house. And then also too, they get to sell the house with their realtor, of their choice, and also without a gun to their head as far as forcing a sale very, very quickly. So in this specific situation, the niece has now listed the house for sale. They don't have any payments for 6 months, and the mortgage is in good standing. So this is probably a good example. Now, keep in mind, part of this process was a reality check as well for them, that, they still had to sell the house because they couldn't afford it. But nonetheless, from the first letter, when you're a month behind, to 14 months behind, right at the end of the process, in 2 hours, we were able to get them, the lender, to agree to simply pay the arrears, and they stopped everything.
So Ron, that number that you mentioned, what does that comprise of? Just mortgage, principal, and interest? What are
Yes,
the other
and
costs?
legal fees and enforcement fees.
So I've
Yeah.
seen legal fees as high as 35,000.
Yes.
Am I in the ballpark?
You can be. It depends on the lender. If it's a private mortgage that they're past due on, it can be that high. If it's an A or B bank, it's usually quite lower. Okay.
How much are we talking about? Like tens of thousands?
That one, I think there was like 9,000.
$9,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, I don't think people are ready to see what happens when they let things go. Am I right?
You are, and this is that example is a very good example of someone who sat and kept this quiet for 14 months. They didn't tell anybody.
They didn't tell anyone.
Nobody. They didn't know what to do. They were embarrassed.
They were embarrassed.
Yeah.
And I think that embarrassment is also why they're hesitant to reach out to a real estate agent. We can be, I think we can be quite, if people confide in us. And I often think of some of the people that I've bought and sold homes with in the past. Those people that are a little bit standoffish, they keep to themselves, and they're often, very hesitant to share all their personal information. But once you develop that relationship with them, and, they start to confide in you, I think if you've got that confidence with your client or your past centers of influence, then they're going to open up to you, because we're here to provide solutions, to provide alternatives to just burying your head in the sand and not addressing the real threat, because this affects your life. I can't think of anything else that affects your life stronger than something that threatens the home that you live in. Would you agree?
100%. And that being said, I want to jump to the scenario too, because so I'm going from like very extreme on one end to a client that we couldn't help. Okay. So I want to give you an example of the client we couldn't help, so you can see what we're kind of dealing with today. Okay. So this is the scenario number 2. So, and this one, I spoke to these people just 2 days ago. Okay. Clients have already been locked out of their house. Okay. House was valued at 1.1 million. They currently had a first mortgage for 500 and a second for 400. With default fees, the total owing is close to 1 million. They were eager to somehow stop enforcement and try to get the house back. Okay. I spent 30 minutes with them. We looked at the credit bureau. It was obvious they were searching around, because there was maybe 20 different mortgage hits on their credit bureau within a week or two. So we did I call this a reality check call. They earned a family income of 150,000 a year. After doing the calculations, even if there was a magic way to save them, they would be paying 7,000 a month in mortgage payments. Market rent for this house was $3,500. They're currently staying in an Airbnb, as they felt they were in limbo. After the reality check call, they started looking for a permanent place to live instead of looking for financing that wasn't going to happen. Once they were firmly told there was no way out, they were accepting the situation, and that the reality was much, much easier to handle. Okay. So basically, what's the problem in our business is, there are some bad actors, and there's a lot of people that maybe necessarily aren't as experienced, and they'll a lot of times be try to drag things on, telling clients the information that that is unrealistic. It happens with both of us, with realtors and mortgage people. So clearly 20 people were trying to help them out and telling them that they could do something when there was no chance in this one. And as mortgage and realtor professionals, we got to be very cognizant of that, because we don't want to waste our time too, right? You don't want to take a listing that you're just going to get dragged out from beneath your feet, so.
So could you touch upon some of the, like, this is what's popping into my head. I don't think a lot of people who have borrowed money from a lender understands that when they start, defaulting on their loans, the costs associated to some of those defaults. Because I remember years ago having to deal with someone who was in a closed fixed rate and had was it a 3-month interest penalty?
Yeah.
For breaking that mortgage.
Yeah.
So that was an additional cost. But I'm just trying to think of everything else that sort of winds itself up, right? And that was back in the days when fixed mortgages were better than variables, because
Yeah. So there's I've seen everything on these statements. I've seen up to $150,000 added on top of the mortgage, between fees, interest, property management fees, like you said, interest penalties. So charging those interest penalties for paying the mortgage out early, which they're in default. Keep in mind that, if it's a situation where there potentially is some equity in there, that's when, as much as I don't necessarily like pushing people to the lawyers, if it's a situation where it's very close to having enough cash to pay everyone out, quite often it is good practice to have a litigation lawyer simply review the payout statement, because most of the fees that are added on these mortgages are actually unenforceable. Okay. Those 3-month interest default penalties are not enforceable. They'll look at, like, sometimes they'll charge appraisal fees, $500. And they'll actually have to show an invoice that they did an appraisal. Most of the time they simply do a purview report or something, Geo Warehouse, one of those comps.
Yeah.
And they didn't spend 500, so they'll have to a good litigation lawyer can quite often get a lot of those fees removed. Okay,
we're good at stealing each other's fire, because that's part of my presentation towards the end. We're gonna get right into that stuff. Purview is Terranet on your side, is it not?
Yes.
So it's the same database.
It is. And yes, 100%. Yeah.
Is there a charge for you guys to pull those reports?
Yeah, it used to be, we used to get 100 a month for, I think, like, for free, basically.
Wow.
And yeah, now it's $10 each.
Ah.
So yeah, they got us hooked, and then yeah.
We have to start buying K-cups instead of Tim Hortons. Any more examples there, Ron?
No, those are pretty much it, because I just wanted to talk about, like, two extremes, right? My key takeaway is anytime that you're speaking to someone who is in, let's just say, in distress, we don't know how much in distress they are. You should get them have a mortgage person in your back pocket that's willing to spend the time to do a quick evaluation of the situation, because that could be the difference between you having a listing or not.
I totally agree. Amazing.
Okay? And you want to request the most recent letter that they received from the lender. Okay, because they never give them the option of paying the mortgage up to date, but it's always an option.
Yeah, I don't know why that wouldn't be indicated in the letter.
I don't know. I don't know if it's a law. It might be a rule. I don't know. But they always request to just, to get paid out the full amount of the mortgage. Right.
Amazing.
So you have to request an arrears statement. It's a little tip of the day, arrears statement. So
I hear you. Okay, so let's keep moving. Let's talk about the real estate brokerage considerations and our own due diligence, guys. So the legal requirements: lenders are required to obtain a current power of sale appraisal of the property before proceeding with a power of sale. So they will go out and, by the way, I will give you guys full slides so you don't have to take pictures. So I'm gonna email that to everybody that registered for this course. So let's go. Let's keep going. Spousal consent. Now, I actually, my bag is right over here. No, it's right over here. I have an email string from a lawyer on a power of sale that one of my agents was dealing with regarding some disputes that the spouse had with their partner in regards to the power of sale proceedings, and was essentially threatening not to relinquish their possessory rights. If there are clients out there that are too embarrassed to tell their own spouse that their property, their matrimonial home is under power of sale, I don't even know what to think.
I've seen that. I've seen
You've
that.
seen that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the string of emails that I'm actually looking at had to do with the whole not only the disclosure, right, but the wording of the disclosure on closing. So it was already too late. The property had been sold. They had postponed the closing date twice regarding this legality. So guys, this is not a Family Law Act seminar. I believe Brian Madigan has a Family Law Act course that is quite good, probably better than mine. But I'm not gonna get too deep into a spouse's possessory rights. But when if and when you do get one of these from a lender, and they may be the only person on title, but if you know that they're married, you got to ask the question, and you got to get spousal consent on that listing agreement, because there are rights under the Family Law Act that need to be considered before you sell that property. Okay. Market awareness, that should be quite obvious. Transparency. Agents must be transparent with both seller and potential buyers about the property being sold under power of sale. I don't want to get into the as is, where is condition and schedules right now, because that's a little bit further on in the presentation. And due diligence. Agents should conduct thorough due diligence to ensure all legal requirements are met and that the sale is proceeding fairly and legally. Guys, I'm going to go out a little bit further on the ethical side of things. Power of sales are not easily, it's hard to get excited about a power of sale. Let's be honest. It's not like, oh, like I got a power of sale. No, it's obviously we're dealing with the darker side of our industry, and you are dealing with people's lives. So in doing the due diligence, I think we've got to sort of overlay that with sensitivity in doing your due diligence. I've actually had an agent that I got a complaint about, that was kind of going in there all gung-ho and saying, I represent the bank. You got to talk to me like I'm the bank. Bad approach, guys. Right? Yes, you may be in correspondence with the lawyers from the bank when you've been given this lead, but you're really here to service the people that are living in that home. So let's be sensitive and let's be caring. And believe you me, you're going to get, you're going to attract a lot more bees with honey. If you always approach things, with a little bit of sensitivity. Okay, let's keep going. Buyer considerations. Buyers should always be aware that the properties sold through power sale are often sold in as is and may require repairs. I've seen so many versions. You guys can actually, when you actually go out there and do your power sale searches, you will see Schedule Bs attached to the vast majority of these listings. I don't know why agents don't like to read them. You need to read these things, guys. And quite often lawyers, they never lived in the house. So they're going to put in these clauses in their schedules saying that, look, we make no warranties or representations on anything. We know nothing, and we choose to know nothing. And also, I've actually been on the listing side of things. I've received offers with conditions on inspection, and I've had lawyers cross it out, not allowing any inspections. Not only do they make no representation and warranties, they don't want to know. They don't want to be made aware of anything about selling this power of sale. So don't be surprised that you can't get those conditions in. However, and Ron, back me up on this if I'm right or incorrect, they have to pretty much always take a condition on financing. Am I correct?
No, you can waive the financing, but it's funny you bring this part up because I had one that closed about 2 weeks ago. That was a power of sale and as is, right? And
Yeah.
because it was a power of sale as is, and it was the new buyer, they actually required it was an insured mortgage, 5% down, but they requested it. Normally, there's no appraisals on those, but because it was power of sale, they did require an appraisal. Okay,
Wow.
which is very common because that as is scares the lenders and the insurers. So they will quite often require an appraisal. When they did the appraisal, they found some mold. It wasn't a lot of mold, but it killed the sale. And it didn't, we closed it in the end, but they had to go in and remove, even though, they didn't have any representations and all that. They didn't want to know about anything that was wrong or repairs needed. No bank was going to lend on that while there was mold there. So they had to remediate it prior to closing.
Right.
So just a
Uh,
good example.
and following up with that, mortgage arrears. Agents should be aware of the outstanding arrears for municipal property taxes and land deferment act. Agreement charges must be paid. Like we need to know what is owed on this property. And I don't know what it is. I think it's a financial concern that a lot of agents have. They don't want to go out and download the parcel registers on these, or work with a lawyer and ask, can you download the parcel register? Can I see the liens on this particular house? And quite often what you don't want is to be blindsided on closing saying, hey, there's more money that needs to come off of the sale and we don't have enough. Because what happens if you're short? What's the first thing that lawyers go after if there's not enough?
Our commission.
They want to go after your commission, guys.
Yeah, no commission.
Right? And if you
Yep.
haven't done your due diligence, right, you might be coughing up your commission to offset some of the costs that you didn't research.
Yep.
Yeah, the cooperating agents get pissed off. And now we have a new MLS rule saying that we can't pay you guys out as listing agents until we've fully paid out the cooperating brokerages. So we got to be extra cautious as to what is, what's going to be on that statement of adjustments. Okay.
And you know what, Charles, this is like a very common. So it's not just us that should be doing that. If you're in default, and let's say you're a lender and you want to enforce your position on a home, and you go to a lawyer, the first thing lawyers do is they investigate how much equity is in there before they decide if they're taking on that case.
Right.
If there's none, they won't even take it unless you pay them up front.
Amazing. And we also have to point out the person who holds title, because power sale, they haven't accosted the title from the homeowner. That homeowner has the right to redeem. So if they reach out to a Ron Gibson at Gibson Mortgages and find the money somehow, they can redeem right up until the closing date. Right? So we may not even have a sale. So that's the reality. And I've actually, I bought my parents during the 2009 recession. I bought my parents a small apartment building, and it was under power of sale. And the listing agent, who ended up being one of our agents here at REMAX West after the fact, but he actually called me because I actually put a 90-day closing date on this apartment building. And he calls me, goes, "Can you move up the closing date?" I go, "Why?" He goes, "He might redeem." And I was like, oh my gosh. So we moved up the closing date to less than 30 days because we knew that not only did he have the means, and he was researching the ability to go out and find something to get out of the situation, but we really wanted this apartment building. So we had to move up our closing date ASAP. Okay. We had a condition on environmentals and stuff like that on it because it was commercial. And because this was a cash deal, we ended up just waiving that and closing. So these are the things to consider. Even though you think you've got to sell, you really don't. Okay. And your relationship with lawyers, oh my gosh, just talk to them, ask questions. Don't be shy. They're just lawyers, just human beings. Now, I've dealt with competent lawyers, and I've dealt with incompetent lawyers. They're out there, the guys that don't work and don't do anything. I even have a story about how we did a power of sale, and on closing date, the owner refused to move, right? Even though it had closed, and they were basically saying, "Yeah, go out and get a sheriff to pull this guy out of the house." So it came down to getting a writ of possession that we had to go out and requisition. the lawyer that we hired wrote it wrong. So by the time we submitted it to the bailiff, he goes, "This is incorrect. Do it all over again."
Wow.
Oh my gosh. So it's really important that we pick competent people, right, to liaise with and to back us up here, guys. Let's keep going. This is actually the second page of a parcel register that I pulled not that long ago. Now, I'm going to give you a copy of this presentation, guys. If you can't see on your screen, in the bottom left-hand corner, I got this lead for one of my agents, and guess what we found out when we pulled the parcel register? In the bottom left-hand corner, it says, caution, LND bankrupt. So there is on title, an order for bankruptcy registered on title. It was too late. So sometimes people let things go on, and let's face it, if they're not paying their mortgage, what else is happening in their life? We don't know, and they often don't tell us. And so you get approached by someone. This property was in London, Ontario, and we found out that they had 4 mortgages on this property. And when you pull a parcel and you see that they've got 4 more, they've got 300,000, 268, 650, 30,000. Charge. And we all know that the first person that got paid out on a power of sale is who? Isn't Revenue Canada first in line? If you owe taxes?
Revenue Canada.
Revenue Canada. You owe taxes, they're the first people to get paid out. Can we see that? So often not, right? Number 2, how about your property taxes? So I didn't understand that. Okay.
I think so. Property taxes. The government gets their money right off the
Government gets
top.
their money, guys.
Right off the top.
And then we have what's called first, second, and third charges. So you're in a pecking order. I actually had an agent who actually lent out personally $200,000 to their own client as a second mortgage. And then when the market shifted and they found out that their property wasn't worth that much no more, it went power of sale. And you think the first charge is worried about the second charge? Not at all. Okay. So this is a $35 way. It's $35 to us, right? To go out and find out exactly what is registered on title. Let's talk about advertising considerations, guys, right? So we have to understand that legally and ethically, before advertising, it's crucial to understand the legal obligations surrounding power of sale transactions. These can vary by jurisdiction, but typically include disclosure requirements. So on the MLS system, there has to be some kind of unique identifier, whether it be in the brokerage remarks. Quite often when we see the seller's name, right, it says under power of sale, right? Or if it's the bank or the lender that is selling the property, these are telltales, okay? Fair market value. This is what makes us different from the Americans. We actually have to market the property at fair market value. We can't, if this person on title who is now in distress has $100,000 of equity in their property, right, at fair market value, you've got to market it at that price. So I know a lot of people have gone onto the MLS going, there's no deals here. Well, obviously, because we're marketing it at fair market value. Now, if you download a parcel register and you understand that, okay, this is a $700,000 property, the client owes $550,000, there should be $150,000 of equity minus expenses. But you still have to market it at fair market value, guys. As is condition. Many power sale properties are sold as is, meaning buyers should be made aware of potential repairs or outstanding issues. Okay? Now, because there's an as is, where is clause that the lawyers have given us, there's a limit as to what we can put out there and warn potential buyers about. We are separate from the lawyers, even though lawyers claim they don't know anything about this property. If you ought to have known something, there was a deficiency in a property and it was quite obvious, you are liable, right, for disclosing what you have seen. Okay. Right to redeem, we just covered that, and it's advisable to consult a real estate attorney to ensure compliance with local regulations. So obviously it will vary from province to province, but here in Ontario, our disclosure requirements, they're no different than if the client themselves were selling the property, right? Instead of you selling it from the bank. All right. Forms and clauses. There is, right, a mortgage power of sale clause, MORT/POS-1. I'm going to leave that up there on the screen for you guys to take a look at. This is a standard clause that is quite often inserted into our agreements of purchase and sale, right? Because we know that the most obvious thing that gets addressed here is that the seller has the right to redeem. So it should be made, if you're the buyer agent on this deal, and let's say you've inserted this clause, right? You've accepted the Schedule B from the lawyer, and you've inserted this clause into your Schedule A, you have discussed and you've gone over the whole all the possibilities. So if they've sold their house and they need this house to move into on a particular closing date, maybe this isn't the best type of product to buy for your client if they're in that particular situation, because things can happen. And under power of sale, the remedies are always going to be available, right, to the person on title to say they can redeem themselves. And it has happened in the past. And what's more interesting is that it's slightly different on the commercial side of things, which I don't want to get into. A year and a half ago, I did get a commercial power of sale in Ottawa for a $7.5 million property. And there's something in the Mortgage Act under power of sale where it's written where the person, I guess the entity that has gone into default can't, they can't, I guess, re-register another mortgage on the property under the same entity. But in commercial, we often use corporation names. The same person that owns a different corporation can incorporate and refinance the property under a separate corporation. It's really strange, all these little intricacies that can happen in our industry for different products. All right. And you know what? I'm just going to go into chat room here. I did notice that I guess the bond mortgages are a collection of mortgages. I think Cody posted that. Skylar posted that a little. That's good to know. So it is a pool of mortgages that the lender may sell, right? A lot of moving parts here, right? Beverly and Tenzin, power sale and seller's market. Can a listing agent list a property under fair market value to potentially get multiple offers? Yes, that is a strategy that you can employ. However, it's risky, obviously, because the problem is that the person on title may claim that you undermarketed their property on purpose, and now they have a case to go after you if you don't get multiple offers and you end up selling it below market value. That's in this particular economic climate, that would be tough to prove. However, in the past, there have been recourse for people saying, you know what, you undersold my property, now I want to take you to court. So you don't want to ever be in that situation. All right, hopefully that answers that question. Oops, here we go. Here's a typical Schedule B. Now this is only the front 2 pages of, I believe, 5 pages Schedule B that the lawyer provided one of my agents. And the reason why there's no unique markings on this, but in it goes through, I'm not even going to get into it. I'm going to attach this to the when I email you guys the slides, I will attach this Schedule B for you guys to read through yourself. But as you're going through the MLS system, guys, download the Schedule Bs. They are few and far. There's no standardization to any of these. It's what the lawyers come up with in order to protect themselves and the lender. Okay, plain and simple. But as you can see, they're not going to accept anything, right, that puts them in a compromising situation. And furthermore, and this was another thing that one of my agents did approach me with, when you get the agreement of purchase and sale, not only will if the lawyer decides to work with you and signs it back, there are provisions in the standard agreement of purchase and sale at REIA. They are going to cross them all out. They don't like the words on our standard agreements. There are too many consumer protections in here. And they're going to get rid of it. Like UFI, for example. They're not going to make any claim that they didn't know that there was any UFI in the property. I don't know if anybody nowadays actually will. Some of us are old enough to remember UFI when it was a thing, and now it's not because of the half-life of the volatile organic compounds that are emitted in the air when you do construction and stuff like that. The half-life of UFI is gone. I don't even know why it's still in our agreements purchase and sale, but the lawyers hate them. So you will see every single lawyer cross that stuff off. Okay. Let's get into Realm. I'm going to stop sharing. If you look on your screen here on this slide, you can see that I actually do have a power of sale search, and I want to share with you guys. Let's see if I can get into my browser here and sign in prop text. Let me get into Zoom, share that screen. Share screen. There we go. Can you guys see that? No, that's the slide. I'm going to shut down my slide presentation. Actually, let's see which slide I can share. Is that the presentation? No, that's... I'm having trouble sharing my screen here, guys. Give me 1 second. That's the presentation. I'm actually going to close it. Okay. And let's share my screen now.
Charles, we could see your screen. I could see it.
Okay, you
You've
can
got
see it
the
now?
map up. Yeah, I could see
No,
it.
no. That is the presentation itself.
Oh,
Can you guys see this? Oh, yeah. there it is.
X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, oops, I touched my screen by accident. And my login timed out. Do it all over again. So this is the nitty gritty, guys. This is probably what you guys are going to take away from this. 1, 3, 2. Loving this stuff. There we go. So let's get right into Realm. For those of you who are using Matrix, there is a different trick to doing these searches. You have to do what's called a string search in Matrix. So any Matrix user? You guys know? No? Okay. So if you guys are Matrix users, you might want to reach out to me onto how to do this in Matrix. It's going to be different from Realm. Okay. And I click on search. So because I've already created the search, I'm just going to show you the search in order to save some time because it's already 10:15 here. Here we go. So I'm going to click clear. What do you got? 23,923 available properties. Under my saved searches, the very search I have at the top is power sale search. So I want you guys, so this isn't in the slide presentation, so you might want to write this down. I have checked off match on all area municipality community values. I'm only specifically interested because don't forget, PropTex is now Ottawa, Windsor, Niagara, Kingston. Do you really want to know the power of sales that are occurring in all those regions? Probably not. So I've specifically chosen Durham, Peel, Toronto, and York. Is that generally not the Greater Toronto area, right? It's not the Greater Toronto Horseshoe area, the GTHHA or whatever they call it. But I think it's important for us to just focus on what's happening in our particular market areas. And these are the primary markets that we serve. So I've chosen the areas. I've chosen both freehold and condo, right? I want available for sale, right? And I'm going to scroll down all the way to the bottom here, guys. So I haven't chosen anything else on this quick menu search. Oh, by the way, for those of you who are going, okay, why does your screen look different than mine? Because I am using the map and table view in Realm. So the map and table view is my favorite view. For a Stratus purist, get rid of the map, just use tables. But what it does, it puts the quick menu on the left-hand side. Remember in Stratus, we used to have the quick menu, quick search on the right-hand side. Now we have it on the left-hand side. So it's very familiar for us Stratus users to go through this. At the very bottom, I want to add, it's actually, so I've already got these in here. You want to add a field. And what you want to add is the seller and landlord name. You guys all see that? Now let's look at the seller and landlord names that I've chosen. It contains, right? So it's different from Matrix. It contains, so by selecting contains, let's scroll down a little bit. Bank, trust, CIBC, Equitable, BMO, the word power, okay? Scotia, RBC, Genworth. That's an old one, right? I think it's called Sagen now. But I've got both Genworth and the reason why I have it in there because I'm doing historical searches. And back in the day, Genworth did have power sales way back, right? CMHC, C.M.H.C. You might want to do R.B.C, right? B.M.O. You might, there's so many different ways in which a user can put in this stuff. But here's the big one. Because I put in all these different words, I want to filter out things that I don't want in my search results. And so what I've done at the bottom here, I put not contains estate. Okay, so I don't want estate properties because they don't qualify as power of sale properties. So I've selected not contains estate, and look at this. I've got 222 results. Now I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say, hey guys, there aren't 222 power of sales. If you individually click on these and they come up on your screen, and I'm going to switch to my favorite Stratus view, the sheet view, because what I'm looking for is the seller landlord name. This one is Olympia Trust. Okay, in trust for, so this could be, let's scroll down a little bit. Let's look at the brokerage remarks. Land is power of sale and sold in as is. So that is a legitimate power of sale. It's only going to give you the first 100 results, guys. So you might want to put in, obviously I've got condos and freehold in here, which is why it's a lot. I didn't choose commercial for a reason, because it's not a commercial seminar. But here we've got 365,000. Equitable Bank is the seller. Okay. Let's go to number 3. RFA Mortgage Corporation under power of sale. Now, if I scroll down just a little bit, oh, actually, I'm going to click on attachment 3 here. I don't know. I've never heard of RFA mortgages. Have you ever heard of RFA mortgages? Okay. RFA mortgages. Let's take a look at one of the schedules here.
Formerly Street Capital.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a Schedule B that the lawyer has provided, the listing agent, that we actually have to go through. Guys, you can do this with me, or, you know, do it on your own, right? And this obviously has to be disclosed, right? And it becomes part of the agreement of purchase and sale, right? So if you have trouble discerning the meaning of some of the words in the Schedule B, reach out to me, or reach out to your mortgage professional, or reach out to the lawyer and say, hey, I'm not quite sure what this actually means. They're going to put in all sorts of protections, and that's why it basically exists. But I'll tell you, the advertising provision. I actually had an agent last year, got a power of sale, put on social media, and put in text flashing on his reel, power of sale, power of sale. The lender lost their apples because you can't. So it actually said in the documents, right? Yes, you have to disclose that it's a power of sale, but you cannot advertise to the consumer that it is a power of sale.
And us, if we have a search, we can probably advertise a list of power of sales.
So let me get into the seller landlord field is a restricted field in Realm. So the question is can we create a list? You can one-on-one marketing. It's not one to the masses. You can't take a list of power of sales and publish that all over the internet and say, hey guys, here's a list of power of sales that you should consider. And then anybody, without knowing who they are, having access to that information. This is private information to just members. So we are a business, and it is a business-to-business platform, which is what our MLS system is. We can discuss amongst ourselves that we know that these are power of sales, but we can't let the entire public know what properties are listed. If they contact you individually and they sign a representation agreement with you, yes. So that's under TRESA. So we are being entrusted with this information, right, as members of our association and boards. And when another agent, because they have to disclose that it is a power of sale, has put it on the MLS system, so people have actually tried to automatically send power of sales to their clients. And they're like, hey, Charles, why isn't this working? Because it's a restricted field. You can't automatically update people on these types of listings. So you can try, but the system won't let you. Okay. And that is put in there to protect the integrity of the market price of that particular property. Because you know what people generally think when they see a power sale? It's an opportunity, isn't it? Right? Because we can take a look at all the liens and we go, oh, well, if it's the first charge, if it's the bank that's in first position, if they're the ones that have given you the power of sale, you know that they're owed 500, but there's, $700,000 is what the property is worth. I'm just going to offer 500 because we'll get it for 500 because that's all the first charge is owed. Now, I've been given power of sales from second and third people, charges, people that are in that third position, because they're trying to protect. Now, Ron, forgive me, I can't think it off the top of my head. There's a section under the Mortgage Act in which a second or third mortgage has the opportunity to buy out the first or second charge. Are you familiar with that? Michael, are you?
Heard of it.
It's like a section 80 something.
Check your investment.
Yeah, so if you're in a second position and the first exercises power of sale, the
Yeah, you
second
can, so
has-
you have the right to go the second mortgagee, and this is generally to protect themselves.
right,
Because depending on who's in front of you, you
Right.
don't know what kind of fees that they're going to put in front of you. It's going to bump you out of your equity position. So they have the right to either one, take over that mortgage completely, or just pay it up to date
right,
and add it to their charge.
got it. Okay. So I think it's interesting to see the dynamics that can occur, because sometimes you see these like whatever it is, the second mortgage that's selling this property, you got to find out what's on the first, right? Now, I've also seen the first mortgages cooperate with the second guys closely, right? Saying, hey, hey, we're okay. It's you guys they defaulted with you, not with us. We're fine. But yeah, if you want to, do your best and try to get your money back, all the power to you, man. Right? And then there's others that will say, hey, no. We want control over this because we don't want you undercutting us. Right? There's no financial incentive for a second mortgage guy to try to sell it and have the first charge lose money. Right? That just doesn't make any sense. But I don't know if certain people that are in that situation want to take that risk, and which is why I see sometimes the lenders not want to cooperate with people in that situation. All right. Boy, what have I got up on my screen here? I'm gonna try to activate my where had my power sale presentation. I gotta relaunch it because I couldn't get out of it. Where is the power of sale? Power sale presentation. Probably gonna have to go right down to the slide again. You guys can see this, right? Guys, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna go back to where I left off. I think I was right in or around here, right? So let's get into the question and answers. Actually, we hit this exactly at 1 hour. That's amazing. Yeah. Randy.
What is the best way to reach out to a lender or a lawyer if a property is already negative equity, when you see that there's gonna be a shortfall, you want to seek their information? How do you reach out to them to say, hey, I'm about to sell this property, I understand that your client is in default. Will you still allow me to cooperate with me to get my information, even though the property is gonna be a struggle?
So the question is, guys, for those of you who couldn't hear, Randy's asking is what is the best approach in approaching a lender, right? Because the client, the actual homeowner on title, has approached you as a real estate agent to help them out. And you've done your due diligence. You discovered that there's not enough equity for this person to even pay your commission. That is a bad situation to be in the first place. So,
Charles.
yeah.
Oh, excuse me. I remember back in the 90s when the market was failing, Joe Castaldi used to recommend that we put a clause protecting our commission in the offer, the body of the offer. I don't know whether you could use that now and how,
No.
how strong.
So Arnella, money talks and BS walks, right?
Yeah.
So you can
Yeah.
write whatever you want.
Yeah.
Where's the money?
Well, that's just it. If you wrote it in the body of the offer, we were
Where's
protected.
the money?
It would be part of the deal.
How do you enforce a shortfall?
I don't know.
Does
I don't know.
Does that clause? I have never read that clause. Does that clause
Mm.
address who pays it? Who pays the shortfall?
It would be from the lawyer's
Well, the lawyer pays the
Proceeds.
shortfall. That clause makes absolutely no sense in my mind. So the relationship that you have with this lender may not have a database of real estate agents that they prefer to use. And because they like you, and they trust that you're going to act in their best interest, are willing to work with you, right? And have you get paid. Now, because I was dealing with TD back in the day, I was never really directly talking to a lot of lawyers a lot of the time. They usually hire their bank, a third-party property management company. And what they do, you get the initial letter from the lawyer, right? And they put you in touch with the property management company. And then now you've got people to talk to, people that are in the field. So this one property that I sold in Scarborough on Midland Avenue, for some reason, it was tenanted. I'm going to share a little story with you guys. This was in Oklahoma. So for those of you who are not familiar with what an Oklahoma is when the lender gets duped, right? Into believing a property is worth so much. And so I'm thinking that, I hope the lawyer wasn't involved, but the mortgager, so the mortgagee was the victim, the listing agent, the buyer agent, and I guess mortgage agent that was working for the lender, they were all in cahoots. They all collaborated to create this ruse. And not only did they trick the lender into thinking a property is worth this much money, but they got a tenant who used the property commercially to breed guard dogs, Rottweilers. So imagine getting a call from the bank saying, hey, we got a power sale for you. I show up at the property, and guess what the property's covered in? Guard dogs. You can't make this stuff up, guys. I'm scared for my life. I'm calling the property manager going, have you been here yet? Right? And they're just like, oh my gosh, they got to get animal control out there. Not only did they dupe the lender into believing that the property was worth so much, so the seller walked away with all this extra cash, right? This buyer disappeared, left the country, and the rents that this legitimate commercial tenant was paying were going to this guy that disappeared and owed the bank all this money that, defaulted on their mortgage. And you couldn't do anything with this listing because how am I supposed to put it on MLS and let you guys go show this property without fearing for your lives? It's absolutely crazy. So developing that relationship with the lender, right? And saying, look, I'm here. Do you want me to be your property manager? Right? What do you want me to do to justify and to mitigate their losses would probably be the best approach in that particular situation. You've done your due diligence. You can see that, and you can anticipate a shortfall. Is that what you're saying? You're anticipating a shortfall. Approach the lender saying, look, we got to mitigate our losses here, but I still need to get paid for my services. Am I correct in that? So if you can take that little bit of advice and, not walk away from these things. I think that the general tendency a lot of the time is to say, oh, there's not enough money here. Go find somebody else. Right. So, well, when you get that listing agreement signed by them, right, that really is the telltale. So you're going to send them, obviously, you're going to send them the RICO information guide. You're going to send them the seller representation agreement under designated representation, right? I don't know why people still aren't using the designated forms, but it seems kind of odd to me. Some people haven't even heard of the RICO information guide. Even lawyers will generally be hesitant to sign some of these documents because they're lawyers. They're all like, what am I signing here, right? That's okay. I just have to justify that I provided the documents and explained it to you. And as long as I can communicate with you that you understand what I've sent you and you're not in agreement with signing this, I'm okay. Because if I ever get audited, or if my broker of record or manager approaches me and says, why didn't you get these documents signed? You can come up with a paper trail saying it's not for a lack of trying. It's just that they're just not comfortable, which is fine. Sometimes people just aren't comfortable. Okay. So don't be pushy. Don't be rote in our system. They have different systems on their side, right? But be cooperative and, let's row in the same direction. We're all trying to get to the end together. There's 4 in the chat here. Always for market value, maybe add a receiver. Okay, that's interesting, D. I'm not sure what that really means. Is the receiver not the lender?
No, for your list
So
of
I
BMO.
think for MLS, it's fine. On getleo.com, somehow on the
Sure, I'm not sure if
heading,
this is for us or for
commercial.
somebody else.
So I'm using residential forms for MLS. And there are fields in that residential form which describes the property as kind of mixed use. So the portion that I'm advertising is residential. So for people to actually reside in the apartments,
Okay.
not for the office to be set
Alina, are
up
you talking to us?
living room and kitchen area, right?
Alina?
So
Alina, are you talking to us or are you talking to somebody else? Oh, okay. Sorry about that, guys.
Charles, I was saying add the word receiver. You know how you had your search list for power of sales?
yes.
So you have BMO, power.
Oh yeah, to include, yeah, I'll try that. You know, let me
Yeah.
know if you find any that have that word in it.
Yeah,
and,
there's
and see
like
that
receiver,
increases our
receivership.
results somewhat.
Yeah, there's one in Pickering right now. So I know receiver, if you put that in, it'll come up.
Oh,
but
interesting.
there's this,
Interesting.
but my note to
Alina,
was
I'm
the-
gonna have to mute you. I'm not sure why you keep on muting yourself. You mentioned that if you sold under power sale through offer presentation, sold it under market value, a realtor may be liable. But if the lawyer, bank manager would accepted the offer, shouldn't. Yeah. So our responsibility ends at the marketing. Right? As long as we've marketed the property, we all know that fair market value is what someone is willing to pay for it. So that's going to be the defense, Fred, of us being in that situation. Your property is worth what somebody is willing to pay for it. Now, obviously, people that are in a distressed situation, I don't know if they're in enough of a distressed situation and have enough money to sue us, but obviously, you know, we're dealing with people that are already in a distressed situation, and sometimes it becomes really sensitive. It's not so much what we do, it's how we do it. It's the approach that we employed, and we've explained to them, we've got a CMA. And I'm going to go back, this may not be related to power of sales specifically. We are residential agents. For those of us who have been licensed for less than 5 or 10 years, many of us have not experienced a down market and don't understand that things can sell below asking and people can lose money or lose equity, right, on their properties. It's really strange that this can happen, isn't it? But when I was first licensed, it was literally the bottom. It was the bottom of the recession, and it was really common. People were actually walking into a bank and dropping keys at the bank, saying the house is yours, because there was negative equity. It's not that they're not liable for it. It's just that they know they can't live in the house. Rather than you kicking me out of my house, I'm leaving. Let me do you the favor. Here are the keys. Good luck to you. Okay, so the liability, I think, really stems from our actions. Now, if the lawyer, because you can't list it, we don't make the decision to list it low, try to get multiple offers and sell it high. That's not our call. That would probably be the lawyer's call. So, Rod, I see that you've got yourself muted. I'm not sure if you want to add to that.
Not really. I don't really have any. It's just everything's a negotiation, to be honest. I've seen situations where lenders have taken up a bit of the real estate fees just to avoid them losing the sale. So I've seen everything. Yeah.
Oh man, I never recommend that, but sometimes you're right. Sometimes in order to make things happen, we do receive a substantial, sum of money, right? Performing these services, do we not? And if there's a shortfall, that's where the lawyers start licking their chops saying, that's where we're gonna get it from. So
yeah, there's the litigation lawyer that looks at the damages and the extra fees that have been added. They look at the real estate costs. They unfortunately, sometimes everyone has to take a hit for a deal to close. So I've seen everything.
Exactly. But let's end this on a more positive note. Let's circle the wagons back to getting people out of this situation before it starts. Right now, but Randy's got another question. Yeah.
If you have requested the statement of arrears.
Yeah.
And you have the sum, and you end up, you client financing, whatever it gets it paid, can they unreasonably still proceed with the power sale?
Legally, no. So Ron, the question is, they've redeemed.
Yeah, so they don't. Once you get that arrears statement, if you pay it, that mortgage is now in good standing. So that one example I gave of 14 months, technically, they could go another 14 months.
Wow.
What
You know, if
something
they
to think about is let's say you do want to sell that home to that client, and you're thinking about helping them purchase something else. But I think on the other end, because they have missed mortgage payments on their credit bureau, they're gonna have a hard time qualifying for a mortgage.
Yeah, you know what? Once you're in this situation, your credit is shot.
Yeah.
Let's call a spade here. It is done. Your credit is pretty much, who's gonna lend to you once you've gone down this road? So going back and circling back, let's not let them get to that point. If we can help them now, before it gets to this, what are we doing? So as real estate practitioner guys, you've got your ear to the ground. You are keeping in touch with your database, and it may not be them. They're happy with your services, but they got into a bad situation. You know, one of their friends, one of their family members, they're in this situation and it's just started. What services can you provide these people to prevent their credit being shot for the next 6 to 7 years? Because that's how long this stuff stays on your credit bureau, doesn't it?
Yes.
Now, Ron, remember I'm mentioning different mortgage brokers use the 4, 5, 8 C's of credit. Are there only 4?
5.
There's 5. There's 5 C's of credit, right? And what are they?
Collateral, character, credit.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah, I
testing
know. But where does debt fall into that?
me. Credit. So it's utilization. Here, let me just
Yeah. So here's what I've often, sometimes by getting rid of your debt, you've already improved your credit score. So
yeah, it's
let's say
capacity.
capacity. So let's look at people and say, hey, look, maybe you've bitten off more than you can chew.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have bought this $2 million home. You probably should have bought a $1 million home. Let's eliminate $1 million of debt.
So if I could just touch it, quite often people ask, like, how does this happen? So I'm going to give you just a really quick, just give me 1 second, reason why people go into default. So there's the top like 7 that I have is gambling, okay, drugs, job loss, rising interest rates, emergency family situations, overspending, tapping into equity over the years. And then the last one is fraud. And what I mean by fraud is people that have acquired the house originally using fraudulent documents when they really couldn't afford the mortgage. So eventually, as they say, the train's never late. They usually are the ones that go into some sort of default situation.
That was something that I was exposed to in my 2 years in Brampton.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there were a number of real estate agents that participated in some of these frauds. And when they found out that this is how they were closing deals, they were promptly exiting that brokerage quite quickly because reputation is everything in our industry. We are, it's so hard to earn a great reputation. It's so easy to lose it. All right. So we're at 10:45, guys. I don't see any more questions in the chat box. Anything else in the room? Guys, thank you for this hybrid session on this very important topic. Like I said, if you register for the program, I will be providing a link to the recording to all of you, plus the attachment to the slides so that you can zoom in on your screens and take a look. So until next time, guys, we'll see you and stay safe, guys.
Charles,
Thank you,
you.
Charles.
Bye
Thank
now.
you, Iran.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you, Ron.
bye-bye.